Hello everybody, first thing, explain lack of videos recently, at least with my voice in there, simply because I managed to get a lovely fever out of the hospital. Isn't that nice? Yeah, so I've been coughing and sniffing a bit, which is, I don't like doing videos during, which makes sense because it sounds horrible. But I'm doing a talking video and I can cough and sniff as much as I like in this one. Dead. Anyway, so what I wanted to do mainly was sort of go through Bloodborne, my final thoughts on the game, and the sort of story, I suppose. To start with, let's go through the story as I see it. Now, I've not looked at any extra materials in this at all. I don't know or I haven't looked at like Epic Name Bro or whatever the hell people call themselves these days. You know, them lot. I haven't seen anything like that. So what I'm basing this on is just simply stuff I've seen in the game and the way I've taken it. So let's start from the beginning then with Yharnam. So from what I gather, the college or someone similar found a corpse of one of these old great ones, someone like Amygdala or someone similar, in the catacombs underneath the city. Once they found this body, they took the blood from the creature, and then found out it had healing properties, and started injecting it into people and whatnot. And that's how we got some of the more, sort of, initially, the great healing properties of the city, and why the city was so renowned for the great blood and the great healing. Of course, people didn't know probably where the source came from, but the church appeared and the blood ministration, and so they sorted all that out in the front of the PR and such. I'm guessing this went on for quite a few years without any incidents. People would be given blood, people got better, people who got stronger doses of the blood ended up being stronger, massively so. And slowly but surely, after a few cycles of this, something went wrong and the blood was tainted or infected. I'm guessing because the great old ones, either... I think if it's anything like the mythos, being dead is nothing to these creatures. So, being dead, this old one being dead, it probably had a very long-term plan on how to use its own blood. It realised that the people were going to take its blood after being found. It realised that it could infect people with it, or know that what effect its blood would have on the population. Hell, for all we know, it snuffed it there on purpose. Again, this is just what I'm taking from the mythos as a whole, not necessarily in the game. There's nothing particularly to support this, but just my theory. Anyway, so, people keep getting this blood, and eventually people start getting sick. They turn into these horrible creatures, or they start turning into these sort of half-creatures anyway. This is where the church starts employing hunters. They give them their own version of blood to make them stronger, able to fight these new creatures that have appeared. And these church hunters go out and cleanse the streets when they all come out, which seems to be on a moon. It seems to be a cycle of some sort. The regular residents stay inside. The church hunters sweep through the streets, clear any of the infected away, burn them, and then come morning everyone's fine again, and this continues on for the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, till eventually everything goes absolutely so hideously tits up every time that people are starting to fear for the city's safety in general. Now, I'm guessing at some point in this, it got so bad that it was the final hunt. This is where the great ones were finally coming to breach through. But we'll stop there for a second. So the final hunt, the final night, shall we say, where the cosmic horrors finally break through. But this is where your hunter comes in. So you've been drafted into this whole mess and put into the hunter's dream after getting killed. Now, this is the only thing I'm a bit confused of. The dream is obviously linked to after death somewhere. You know, you go back there each time, and you can always get reborn. I'm not sure if the dream is linked to this one night, and anyone who gets pulled into the dream always repeats this same night, is what I think is happening. Basically, so that the night gets stopped by a hunter, but because nothing really gets resolved, it re-loops, and eventually, I'm guessing they keep trying this again and again until they get it right, and so that the thing that gets bored into Murgo tries to get through or something. This is where it's not so clear, and I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, so your hunter turns up and is here to fuck ass, and you get injected with the blood of the old one, just like everybody else. I'm guessing with a barely a dose, simply because of how strong you are. I mean, you're bench pressing werewolves that are like 3 times your size. I mean, hell, probably like 10 times your size. You think the cleric beast and stuff. Sorry, dying here. So, anyway, you end up getting injected with this blood, which immediately is, of course, going to infect you. You are going to turn into a beast at some point, as does everyone else. This blood is so tainted at this point. Again, I'm assuming this is part of the old one's plans. If I was going to go full Lovecraftian mythos here, I'd say that's a guarantee this is part of their plans. They knew this was going to happen, and that was their plan all along, to make a suitable place for them to be born into the world. You know, they're dicks like that. So, Lady Kiko decides that enough is enough. For whatever unknown reason, she decides to kick ass and chew bubblegum, but is all out of gum, instead takes it out on the entire town. You know, no one has any gum, and of course she's here for tax collection purposes. She went along because I'm guessing Yharnam didn't pay, and her boss was all like, actually no, fuck it, she is the boss. She decided she's going to go deal with the task herself. None of the interns can put up with this nonsense. She kicks down the gate to Yharnam with her own foot, and then sadly gets snuffed out by a werewolf. But it's okay, because blood and everything, we get powered up. It's cool. So, again, starting directly from what happens, the start of the night, things start progressing in a horrible way. So this is the night where the Great Ones finally make it through. I'm assuming they weren't counting on Lady Kiko there to kick their asses so hard, though. I don't know. And as the night progresses, they obviously get further and further breaching into the Veil, until eventually, I'm guessing again by design, this is important here, you make it to where Rom is, underneath the lake. Rom is what's stopping the regular humans seeing the other Great Ones in the city. And I'm guessing breaching the Veil by killing Rom actually lets them come into the world a bit easier. Because as soon as you do, the one reborn gets vomited into the world by the scary moon monster, and things start getting a bit crazy. Like, he gets ramped up like 11 very quickly. The church obviously was planning for this. They've been in communication with these Great Ones for a very long time. They stuffed up a few spells and found out that they can communicate, and that the higher-ups have been given orders by these Great Ones to make sure everything's working. Until we eventually get towards the end, of course, where you run into, what do we kill? We go into the Nightmare Realm, which is where the leaders of the church have been directly preparing for the Great One's arrival, and in fact have a baby ready. I'm guessing that the baby is ready, and someone is being born into the baby. It's kind of confusing, but either way, Murgo is the vessel for this Great One, and you go stuff up Murgo. You kill the wet nurse, which I assume is linked to Murgo, or they just didn't really want to show you doing it a baby on camera, which makes sense. And you shatter the Nightmare Veil. You kick Mikolash out of his own nightmare. He's the host of the nightmare. I'm guessing because him being there is why everything can be controlled. You boot him out, allows you to take control of the nightmare yourself and kill the creatures in there. Hooray! Yeah, it's confusing here, and it's not 100% clear. But you destroy the nightmare creatures. You go back to the dream, which is now ending, and Gurman gives you a choice. He says to you, "Yo, you've done well. Let me kill you, and you'll wake up. The night will be over, and that'll be it. You can go on home. You've done your task." I'm guessing is that because the Moon Presence has kind of said to him, "Yo, we need to keep looping this shit till we get it right." This, again, just guesswork here, but he basically gives you the option to get out. They can get someone else in and repeat the process again until it gets right, or something similar. You obviously tell him to go shove it and kill Gurman. Now, killing Gurman, if you've consumed the umbilical cords of a Great One, 3, which is a complete one, 1/3 of so one gigantic umbilical, which is gross, by the way, just FYI. If you consume those, you fight the Moon Presence. If you don't, the Moon Presence makes you the new Gurman, and you have to watch over the dream and watch and bring people in, or keep the loop going, or whatever weird stuff is going on there. Of course, you consume the 3 umbilical cords, you fight the Moon Presence, and you get reborn as a Great One, which is what's happening at the end. Yeah, you turn into this like slug-like creature, and the doll looks after you. That's the general gist of what's going on. As for the in-depth, I think you have to find someone who's put in far more research and time into this than me, but that's what I think's happened, really. They find corpse of Great One, the blood ministration takes over, the city grows into a great power and a great healing centre of the world. I don't know if this is true, or whether it's just coincidence, but they said, I think it's based on Earth, is the idea, as opposed to a fictional Souls universe, because they mention stuff like the Hippocratic Oath, which of course means Greece exists. Now, unless that's just a generic text fluff, then that means that Yharnam exists on Earth. Which, if it's based on any Lovecraft's tales, makes complete and utter sense, because Earth's part of that. But, again, just a sort of little bit of tidbit there for you. It could just be coincidence, and Hippocratic Oath is just a generic medical term they chucked out there, as opposed to Hippocrates himself being real in that universe. Who knows? But yeah, so that's my general thoughts on the matter. It's a lot more complicated than that, I feel, but I'm guessing that explains a lot, especially why Lady Kiko, or the player character in general, is so strong. you're getting a direct, very heavy dose of the blood, which allows you, like I said, to bench press like small armies without breaking a sweat. You can see it especially when you riposte a creature. Say, like Dark Peace Pal, he's all like, yo, and all crackly and shit, and you're like, well, I haven't done that, mate. Slap him in the face and throw him across the room. Like, hell, even the Chosen Undead wasn't that burly, like, but also explains why Father Gascoigne thinks you're going to turn quick, maybe because you've been given a heightened dose, he thinks you're going to go apeshit fast. Then again, he was a crazy man, so what do I know? Yeah, okay, so that's my thoughts on the story, I guess. I ain't got much more to add on that. Excuse me. Sorry, that was me muting my microphone. Right. So that's the general thoughts I've got on Bloodborne and as the story. Again, those are my thoughts. They might not be correct. I've not looked up any external stuff. That's just how I feel that went. There is, of course, more about Yharnam's past, which I haven't gone into, about the Chalice dungeons and shit. But honestly, I didn't do that in the LP. I don't want to add extra layers of confusion for that. So, if anyone's wondering why I left that stuff out. Anyway, as for Bloodborne as a game, what do I think? That is what else I was asked. I think Bloodborne is probably the best Souls game that out there so far, for a number of reasons. Now, hear me out before we get the lynch mob. But the first one being is the atmosphere and story is better than the other Souls games. It went for some, but I'm completely biased in this. I'm going to be honest. I like Lovecraft mythos. I love it. Absolutely adore it. I think the idea of the horror and the way the horror is done in those stories and that universe is miles above anything else. Now, Dark Souls is one of my favourite games, and you guys know that. I was very fond of both of them, in fact, Dark Souls 1 and 2, and Demons as well. But they go for like a more high fantasy, everything is fucked, whereas this has gone for Lovecraft, you are unbelievably screwed, as opposed to just regular screwed. Which I like. I like cosmic horror. The whole hidden veil stuff is always interesting and exciting to me. The insight system. There's so many things about the game. Like, let's just go over that quickly. I'll try and keep this brief, and I know I don't want to bore you lot for like a billion hours, but you have the humanity system in Dark Souls, where 1 humanity up to 10 humanity gives you stats increase, and after that, blah blah blah. But the idea is that humanity, as an in-game system, is keeping you sane. Humanity is what's keeping you human, is what keeping you alive, essentially, is what keeps you grounded to reality. You are a human being, you are still able to do this. In Dark Souls 2, the human effigies you burn, I guess, presumably as a representation of your humanity, and try and keep you sane. Both of which restore your physical humanity to how it should be as well. You die, you start getting hollow due to the curse, but using either a human effigy or a actual humanity crushing it between your hands powers you up, and you can get back to being human. That's a big thing. Here, what we have is essentially the opposite. You gain insight as you're losing your humanity. You are driving yourself insane, but in the process, and in doing so, you are able to see far more than the regular human should or would like to be able to hear and see. For example, you start off completely unaware of anything to do with Yharnam. You have zero insight, you don't know what's going on. You go to the Hunter's Dream, you cannot see the doll will not move for you, you can't see anything else. Nothing makes sense. You start to get, you get an insight, you're starting to get an insight into the world, you are realising that things aren't as they seem. You've seen god-awful creatures from the abyss, you've seen hideous things and monstrosities who should not be able to move, and suddenly it's like a switch. Something in your mind cracks. You lose, you're unhinged slightly, but you're realising that the world isn't as it should be. Nothing is right. And then slowly in that realisation, your character starts to see. Now, suddenly the doll is real. The doll wasn't real before. Now, are you just going mad and you're talking to yourself? Or is the doll actually real? And that doll is actually moving around and you just couldn't see that before? These creatures start appearing everywhere and they'll hold messages for you. You couldn't see them before, you couldn't even comprehend something like that, but there they are. Is that a part of your imagination? These hideous things are appearing all over the place. You suddenly have enough insight to see things that weren't there. An invisible force slapped you across the room, but now you see a grasping, horrible, veiny hand come out of the air to grab you. Look up on the church roof and see this thing staring at you with 1,000 eyes and this long, gangly limbs. And you're suddenly cracking, and you realise, and your character just knows they're going insane, but the insanity gives them a new gift of being able to see the world as it really is. Now that is something I adore. That is the insight is pretty much the mythos points of the Call of Cthulhu universe. In the books, Mythos is something a bit different, of course. The characters crack up, but they understand that they can see these things, usually can't cope and end up topping themselves. In the role-playing game, you gain Mythos percentages when things happen to you. A creature attacks you. You couldn't possibly even understand what this creature is. You can't comprehend it. But you gain a small insight into the world actually is, slowly but surely gain an understanding, but losing your sanity in the process. That is exactly what's happening here, and it's such a good system. Unlike the humanity where it's just a resource to consume, in this it's a pure atmospheric thing as well. You're going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, Alice, and what you can see on the other side is not nice. It is not teas and biscuits. It is gargantuan, world-destroying creatures who have no care for humanity. They have no compassion. They don't care about us. You are ants to be crushed and swapped aside. Now that is a truly terrifying thing, and Bloodborne doesn't do it perfectly. Don't get me wrong, but it does it pretty damn well. And for a Japanese RPG, action RPG, essentially, damn it did a good job. It really did. So the insight system, I could yap on about all day and just how I love it, but yeah, that works so well. The combat system's infinitely improved upon the other Dark Souls games. And again, don't get me wrong, I think Dark Souls 1 and 2 have a fantastic combat system. The sword and board style is great, and it works so well. Fighting these gigantic creatures who are swinging these horrible blades and clubs back and forth, trying to block them, trying to dodge them. It's great. And you really feel the impact when you block the shield. It goes boom, and your hand flies back, but you manage to block it. You're still standing. You are the wall, damn it. You will stop this. And in Bloodborne, you have the opposite. You have these creatures that are just... They're otherworldly. They're too strong to even comprehend about trying to sit there and block. It just wouldn't work. Your arm would snap off and rock off. And instead, you are doing this huge, agile, dance that the hunters with the blood has given them. You are agile. You are strong. You can zip past these attacks. You are fast. They try and attack. They damage you. You will absorb their own blood to power your own. You keep the blood feasting going, powering up your own strength. Dodging through these blows left and right is so good, and it feels so satisfying. To the point where the Dark Souls system seems so slow in comparison. Again, not a fault of Dark Souls in the slightest, but it's just Bloodborne has that visceral and agile feel to it. The combat is so aggressive. There is no downtime. There is no backing off. Even the healing is fast. Jam the injection vial into your leg, throw it across the room, and straight back into combat. As opposed to, your very defensive style, blocking it, drinking your Estus flask, getting back in for another couple of blows, carefully analysing the opponent. When you're Bloodborne, you're rewarded if you get hit, just jump straight back in and take that blood right back out of them. Fantastic. Again, that's not to say that one system is worse than the other or better than the other, but it just feels so different and so aggressive, and it just feels improved and for the right kind of game that it is. The story, again, I've already gone through, I think is absolutely fantastic. I prefer Lovecraft to high fantasy, but don't get me wrong, I like dark high fantasy as well. I really do. I just feel that the Lovecraft, sort of Victorian-esque style city we had as well just works so well. My only concern was the lack of locations. The Soul series is way better than Bloodborne. You have such a variety of locations. It really is. You're in a snowy mountaintop one minute and a dark, fiery dungeon the next. In this, you are in a Victorian city, in a gloomier bit of the Victorian city, in another bit of the Victorian city. The only major difference is the nightmare frontiers and stuff, which look relatively different. It is very dull and sort of the palette is very sort of dark colours, but it's okay because that's what it wants to do. Though honestly, a few more locations wouldn't go amiss. Truthfully, I'd like to see some more locations, but there you go. That's one of my major sort of I can see why they kept it towards the city, but they could have done some more stuff, I feel, with locations-wise. Though the focus on Yharnam did allow it to be just that, a big focus. What we did see of Yharnam was incredible. Well, an absolutely amazing looking area, one of the best that From's ever done, I think. But hey, the sound design is perfect in all three games. Absolutely great. The music is incredible, and everything sounds as it should. The otherworldly shrieks of all the creatures in this, though, especially wonderful. These things feel alien to you. You feel fierce and feel dangerous because they are screaming their heads off in either agony or bloodlust, who knows, and it makes you scared but ready to beat the crap out of them. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this a bit more brief now. I've gone and gushed over this for too long. Let's see what would be left. I've already gone through the gameplay with the combat and stuff. The length, Bloodborne's a difficult one. If we talk solely length of things you have to do, it's a very short game. There is so many optional bosses, for good and for worse. I feel that less work... I don't like the Chalice dungeons that much. I didn't show them in the LP for a reason, because I'm a bit of a stickler for this. I feel that the identikit sort of copy and paste corridors and locations of the Chalice dungeons ruin it. I think it looks bad. I think it looks like someone's gone through in a maker and sort of stuck them together, like the walls are supposed to connect together, you know, like a big put it together, do yourself kind of dungeon. And I feel that's quite bad in how it looks. So let's disregard the Chalice dungeons. I know that seems a bit unfair, but bear with me. So there's a lot of content missing out of that. If you disregard the optional content, your straight path through the game is very short. There's about 5 or 6 bosses you pretty much have to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but if you think of the mandatory content from Dark Souls, it's a hell of a lot bigger game, and it feels like a bigger journey as well. So that's, I suppose, a bit of a complaint. If you include the optional stuff, it's still a big journey, but again, because of the location and the focus in almost a single location, you've basically got 3 major locations. You've got Yharnam, you've got the forest, and then you've got the Nightmare Realms, I suppose, as the 3 separate ones. And Yharnam and the forest are by far bigger, obviously. But you don't feel like you're going on this epic journey as much as you do with Dark Souls. Dark Souls, you feel like this entire like kingdom is taking place around this huge mountain top, and it really feels like it's a big journey from the very depths of Izalith to the very tip of Anor Londo. It really feels like a journey, and I feel that Bloodborne is less about the journey and more about the crazy insanity. And again, nothing wrong with that, but it definitely feels less of an exciting journey. But then the sort of drop from high fantasy to mythos, I suppose, is part of that. But again, I feel if more work had been done on the locations here rather than the Chalice dungeons, which I feel are just copy-pasty stuff, I feel it would have been a little bit better. Honestly, drop the Chalice dungeons completely. Just give us 3 rooms with the bosses in. I'd have been happy with that. Like, the bosses of the Chalice dungeons are great. Although some of them are copy-paste of the main game, but still. I think they're good fun. Alright, to wrap this up, Bloodborne is an absolutely amazing game. It really has rocketed to the top of my favourite games list very easily. It is something I see myself replaying a lot. I thoroughly look forward to the DLC and have every intention of recording it as well. And I hope you get to enjoy and see it as well. With that, I shall sign off and leave you with, unfortunately, 22 minutes of me yabbering on. Apologies about that, but I don't get to gush about games I enjoy that often, believe it or not. So I tend to go on a bit. I'm not going to do a video tomorrow, probably, simply because I want to clear up this cough and this cold. I will probably Thursday or Friday, depending on how I feel. I want to start a new LP, and I don't want to start that by coughing and splittering my way through it. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you understand. With that said, the new LP is either going to be Revelations 2, or it's going to be remake the Resident Evil 1 sort of game. I haven't decided yet. Or there was the off chance of me doing Nosferatu, that shooter. I haven't decided that either. I might do that too. I'll flip a coin, or I don't know, listen to you guys' comments, whichever. We'll see how we go. Either way, that's my current plan. Thank you very much for listening this evening. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time, folks.